let's watch a video. This one is 5 minutes long and promises to explain 3 reasons why you should consider Christianity. It's by apologist Gavin Ortlund. Will it be the typical appeals to what we don't know and disguised flirtation with Pascal's wager? Let's dive in and see.
What are we doing in this world, and what happens when life is over? These questions, meaning and death, are the most important questions we can ask.
Are they? Are they really?
Yet many people are too busy or distracted or overwhelmed to search for answers.
Maybe these questions aren't so important after all, Gavin.
If you're curious about these ultimate questions, here are 3 reasons to consider Christianity. First, the idea of God makes a lot of sense.
The idea of God might seem to make sense, depending on what facts you are prepared to ignore. The flat earth also makes a lot of sense when you ignore certain scientific facts. Don't appeal to preconceived ideas that you think make sense. Appeal to actual evidence, things that can be measured and tested.
The world that we live in doesn't seem self-explanatory. In the 20th century, scientists even discovered that, amazingly, it seems to have begun.
When he said world, did he mean the Earth or the universe? Accuracy of terms is important here. We are still learning about the universe and the Big Bang, and what is meant by the beginning. The current state of knowledge is that the Big Bang might be the beginning of the current state of the universe, but it is not the beginning of the universe. The Big Bang didn't create matter. It accelerated existing matter into what we now call the universe. See the notes for a link to a fabulous video on the question of the beginning of the universe by people who actually know what they're talking about.
Furthermore, the initial conditions and laws and constants of the universe seem to be precisely adjusted such that life can come about.
Fine-tuning that favourite argument of every seasoned apologist. The argument that assumes that these mystical values could just as easily have been something else, and that every imagined combination was just as likely as the one that we have, and that those imagined combinations would not have produced a universe with life. The problem is that we have no example of these apparently essential values being anything other than what they are. We can't change them, and we can't access any example of them being different. So far as we know, these values could not be any different. Something that would kill this argument dead, but religionists still cling to this idea like a drowning rat clings to an HB pencil. For a more intelligent discussion on fine-tuning, see link in the show notes.
These features of the universe, its non-necessity and fine-tuning, make the old idea of a creator sound not so crazy.
If you want your creator idea to be not so crazy, do the hard work and go and find the methodology that you can use to actually test for a creator. You know, how every field of science has to work hard on experiments and data and validation and testing in order to be accepted. But no! Apologists want their pet God idea to be taken seriously because the universe existing is something we humans do not currently have an explanation for. If I were unkind, I'd accuse Gavin of re-encycling the God of the Gaps argument in the hopes that no one will notice.
A contingent, calibrated world seems like the kind of thing that would be constructed or designed. Just like a piece of art or a novel has an author. So the natural...
We have examples of humans creating art. We can witness it and replicate it. This does not equate to the universe being created by some imagined supreme being that we cannot detect and certainly can't observe creating universes. Why does this analogy still persist? Fucking hell.
Natural world seems to suggest some kind of supernatural antecedent cause. It's kind of exciting when you think about it. Now, if there is something out there that put the world...
That if is doing a huge amount of heavy lifting, Gavin. Sure, if such a being existed, it absolutely would explain everything that exists. But then, any imaginary being that is literally capable of doing anything and everything will explain existence. Explanatory power does not validate the idea. Actual measurable evidence does. And despite that, the universe does exist. But all alleged deities are still mything in action. See what I did there?
Here, this could explain some other mysteries as well. For example, the rise of consciousness. It would enable you to say that mind didn't somehow spring up from matter. Rather, mind is original. Mind produced matter.
Consciousness. Make me a beer. Guess I'm going to have to do it the hard way. That's cider.
The possibility of some kind of God or creator could potentially shed a lot of light on our humanity as well.
This claim makes absolutely no sense. If we had an example of consciousness outside of a biological brain, but we don't. Consciousness only exists within a body that has a brain and physical sense components. Consciousness can't process images without access to eyes to provide them, nor can it process sounds without ears to provide audio input. Seeing consciousness as a thing that happens when a complex brain processes multiple inputs simultaneously does not require any of the additional layers of belief that Gavin's Christianity wants to impose. See notes for a link to a short video on consciousness. Or do your own web search. There is a lot of material out there about consciousness. As soon as you remove religious motivations from the study of consciousness, it becomes far more coherent.
As well. For example, it provides a possible basis for trusting our deep intuition that goodness and love have transcendent, lasting value.
What the fuck does that even mean? Goodness and love have transcendent and lasting value? Cut the Christianese and talk sensible, please?
It also allows for a less elitist view of human history. If you're an atheist, you have to think that people were basically wrong on the most important question until the modern West.
What exactly are you trying to say with that statement, Gavin? Lots of things that people thought in the past was wrong. Knowledge increases with each generation and our ideas about reality improve as a result. So of course modern evidence-based ideas will be more accurate than past ideas that were based on less accurate data.
But if there's a God, you can be more open to spiritual experiences and perceptions. But which spiritual experiences and perceptions?
If you have been indoctrinated to believe there is a God, and you are going to be predisposed to interpreting mundane natural things as a spiritual experience. Sleep paralysis and near-death experiences being classic examples.
There's a lot of different religions out there. They can't all be true because they contradict each other, and we
Imagine if Christianity was a conglomerate of multiple and different interpretations of the same scripture. Each branch emphasizing the bits that it wants to be true and many branches contradicting the others. How awkward would that be?
shouldn't just pull out the bits of various religions that we like, because then we're really creating our own religion. That leads to a second consideration.
Every religion has its own unique phenomena. Otherwise, they'd all be the same religion.
Jesus is compelling. At the start of humanity's largest and most diverse religion, Christianity, stands a unique phenomenon in world history, Jesus of Nazareth. Lots of religious leaders made claims about the pathway to God and salvation, but Jesus claimed to be God and salvation.
How convenient that the unknown people who wrote about Jesus decades after he died put down things that claim he was God.
These claims of divine identity and divine authority can be found in the earliest gospel narratives that nearly all critical scholars acknowledge go back to the historical Jesus. Now, if these claims are false, then Jesus was either himself deceived or deceiving others.
Lots of people believe things that are lies, even after being told the truth. Have you seen the shit Trump posts that Christians believe? This point exposes the rotten gullibility that is at the heart of Christian apologetics. Be more sceptical, Gavin. Ask more questions, like, can you really know the truth about Jesus' life?
It seems strange that either delusion or malice is what sparked this huge religion. Plus, his disciples came to the conviction that he rose from the dead, and they proclaimed this message, often at the cost of their lives.
Or the stories that you believe about those people didn't happen, and you're guilty of believing lies in your desire to maintain your God belief.
If Jesus wasn't raised from the dead, they also were either deceived or deceivers, both of which possibilities are problematic. It's actually difficult to explain what it was that launched this huge religion which has founded so many universities and hospitals and done so much good in history.
And spreading slavery and racism, savaging local indigenous customs across the world, imposing a white European way of life on multiple countries, supporting the extraction of resources which exacerbated the poverty of other nations. Tell the whole story, Gavin. Don't leave out the inconvenient parts.
One reasonable possibility is that it's simply true. Jesus was God. Jesus did rise from the dead. But if those arguments leave you with
Another possibility is that it didn't happen. Historians know that fantastic fictionalized feats are written about many people. What makes you think that Jesus is the one person for whom this didn't happen? The far more reasonable explanation is that the life of Jesus is also subject to fabrication and falsity. And it's simply unfortunate that a bunch of gullible cultists managed to spread it through indoctrination and intimidation.
uncertainty, that's okay. There's a third consideration. Prayer works.
Oh God.
You don't have to be smart enough to figure out all these questions.
Every meaningful study on prayer has failed to reveal its value. There's a link in the notes for you to follow.
Christianity claims that God isn't just working in big and general ways in creation and history, but also in personal and intimate ways. He is not far from each of us, and he's responsive to faith, rewarding those who seek him.
Tell that to the many thousands that leave Christianity each year. Every single one of us held on to that promise and begged God for help with our dwindling faith. And we got nothing. If your God really does exist, Gavin, then he doesn't give a shit about people like me. And what you said is blatantly untrue.
Jesus himself promised that those who seek God shall find him. So you don't need 100% certainty, you just need enough faith to come sincerely before God in prayer and say, Jesus, if you are real, teach me how to know you. It's worth
Been there, done that, got the trauma, now fuck off.
putting everything you are into that prayer, because if Christianity is true, it not only provides an answer to these ultimate questions of meaning and death, it provides the happiest imaginable answer.
To summarise, Gavin's 5-minute promise is nothing more than wishful thinking to fill gaps in knowledge and understanding. If this is really the best that experts in Christianity can offer, then I'm not impressed, and neither should you be. If Christianity really is as important as apologists like to claim it is, then it needs a far better marketing strategy, preferably one that has verifiable facts at its core. And since that will never happen, I recommend you give it a miss and enjoy a better life for it. And until next time, be reasonable.